We're talking about today's crazy race politics, including some people so ashamed now of being white, they call themselves black. But it gets even crazier. The word racist. I've got to ask, is racist now the most meaningless insult around, one of the most dishonest words? I mean, doesn't it actually now mean simply shut up or I hate you? Last week we saw an academic even claim that Scott Morrison liking white bread suggested something racist.
Who eats white bread in this country? Anglo men. I think that it shows a deep lack of understanding as to who works in this country. I think that there's a deep intersection of race and class.
That was so obviously stupid that the ABC's Media Watch this week tried to claim, oh, no, but it was all just a joke.
As for the academic at the centre of the storm, she told Media Watch the white bread comment was tongue-in-cheek, and she's shocked it has attracted so much fuss. So are we.
Rubbish. She was serious, and just one more piece of evidence that race politics has gone insane, and the ABC doesn't want to admit it. In fact, now let me show you more of this madness. At Oxford University, a vegan extremist claimed that eating meat was racist too.
The assumption that the best protein comes from corpses is a racist belief. White supremacists weaponized it, eating meat, eggs, and dairy, and the baiting of liberal men as so-called soy boys are all part of the neo-Nazi messaging.
Staying in England, a West Ham soccer star was filmed slapping, hitting, chasing, and even kicking a cat. But his teammate, Michael Antonio, had this response to journalists.
Do you think what he's done is worse than racism?
In the United States, rapper Jim Jones saw even more racism when shopping in a Gucci store.
We've been in Gucci for about an hour, right? And we're in Gucci in the VIP.
We were in Gucci for like 2 hours.
Right? Since we came in here having nobody came and showed us no courtesy, no amenities, no nothing. I still ain't getting no sparkling water. I still ain't getting no champagne. They hire these black people, and these black people are more racist than white people when they get their job.
Joining me is Rowan Dean, editor of The Spectator Australian and host of Outsiders on Sky News every Sunday at 9 a.m. Rowan, I'm terribly sorry I haven't given you champagne either. No doubt I'm a terrible racist for doing that. These examples are insane. Which of them takes the prize for you?
Well, you've got some rich pickings there, Andrew. Very difficult choice. I mean, starting off with Noreen Young, she says her comment about white bread was tongue-in-cheek. Well, she's paid $200,000 a year by the Australian taxpayer as a professor at a university, and goes on the publicly funded broadcast for $1 billion and so a year to give her expertise. And if her expertise is tongue-in-cheek jokes about white bread, then I think we're being dudded on our money. But all of these things disrespect genuine racism. The pick of the crop, by the way, is the footballers, but I'll get to that in a sec. But all of these comments completely disrespect genuine victims of racism. And there have been horrific victims of racism over the centuries. Obviously, the Holocaust, obviously, despite what Whoopi Goldberg says, obviously, slavery in America, obviously, throughout the imperial era, there are obviously many examples of horrific racism, Deep South in America and so on. But to trivialize racism and make it all about I didn't get any champagne in the shop, or I've got a joke about white bread, tongue-in-cheek, or the footballers, or the insane woman in Oxford saying not only that meat is racist, she went on to say that eating meat was also misogynist. She managed to work that in as well. But all of this disrespects genuine victims. That's the worst part of it. But let's look at your footballer there. He asked a question. The guy was kicking a cat and misusing animals, treating animals badly. The guy is obviously sadistic. And yet this, the question from the footballer, from his mate was, well, is it worse than racism? Well, that's one of those questions that the left are so good at designing, Andrew, where it doesn't matter what you say, however you answer it, logically, truthfully, honestly, in any way, your answer will be wrong. So if you say, well, actually, you know, being sadistic is worse than racism, then suddenly you're the racist, even though he hasn't defined what racism means. Racism could be the casual racism of someone, using a name or calling someone, a Greek name or something or other as a joke, or a French name. Hey, so and so, and it's a cliche. That can be casual racism. Is that as bad as sadism towards a cat? No. Sadism towards a cat is a lot worse. But if you answer yes to his question in the affirmative, you are the racist all of a sudden. So you have to answer no. You have to say, no, of course what this guy did wasn't worse than racism, in which case you are reinforcing this idea that racism is the greatest evil. There is no greater evil, even though we don't define what racism actually is. I've come to the conclusion that racism is actually any comment made by a person of a fair complexion towards anyone of a slightly darker complexion that is in any way even slightly critical. Now, if that's the basis on which we're going to run society, we've got all sorts of problems ahead of us, Andrew.